What's going on, guys? My name is Steve. Thank you for stopping by my channel. I'm just an American guy on a journey to discover my British and Irish ancestry. Today, we're going to be reacting to the Troubles. This is probably the #1 thing people have asked me to check out when it comes to learning anything about Ireland. The potato famine is probably a close second, which I have looked at that, but I'm going to do a deeper dive into it sometime in the near future. But the Troubles is probably the top thing people say I need to check out when it comes to Irish history. And I can understand why. I don't really know a lot about it, but I do understand it was a serious time of hardcore fighting and strife between the Irish people. I suppose it was a civil war of sorts, from what I understand. I mean, they even have walls. I know they have like walls or fences put up to divide different areas. And I'm not really sure if this is more about the Republic of Ireland versus Northern Ireland, or if it's more about just the religious aspect of Catholicism versus Protestant, because I know there's been fighting over, both of those things. And so, yeah, I'm not really sure exactly the ins and outs of this. I just know it was a really horrible time in the history of Ireland. So, anyways, guys, let's go ahead and check out the Troubles. Oh, by the way, before we get started, I just want to say that this is actually a two-part series. This video is obviously #1 of 2, and instead of breaking it up in 2 separate videos, I'm just going to go ahead and check out both of these videos, one after the other, and just have it on this one video, because they're pretty short. One's 8 minutes and something, the other's 12 minutes and something, so around 21 minutes. That seems like a pretty decent length for a video. So anyways, guys, let's go ahead and check this out.
Oh, diddly-dee, a leprechaun put a bump in me potato. Ah! Now, with all the Irish people having been disgusted and left, we can start.
By the way, does anybody know what his accent is? I'm curious. I couldn't tell. Is he British? Or is he from the Republic of Ireland? I can't tell where his accent is from right off the top of my head.
Hello and welcome to Feature History, featuring the impatiently awaited and source of much pester, the Troubles. A rather understated name for a 30-year-long period of sectarian violence at its finest. It formed
30 years? Wow. I knew it went on for a while, but I didn't know it went on for 30 years. Hope he's going to tell us when that was exactly.
both the issues and the culture of our contemporary Northern Ireland, and as such a relevant topic today, you can expect many unwanted opinions in the comments. Enough about that though, we have 2 videos worth of controversy to get through here, and now. And later when the second part goes up. For the source of the Troubles you can go all the way back to 1169, with the Norman conquest of Ireland. But for the sake of brevity, I'm going to try to rush to the 20th century. Irish leaders for many centuries would struggle politically with English kings, and this peaked with the Protestant Reformation that saw the majority of England turn Protestant with their monarchy, and the majority of Ireland remain Catholic. A rebellion in the late 16th century saw new efforts to assimilate the Irish, by just replacing who the Irish were. Protestant English and Scottish were sent to Ireland to attempt to colonise the island, and saw success in the north, or as it is otherwise known by, Ulster. The following English Civil War and Glorious Revolution would see the Irish Catholics ally with the losing side, leading to penal laws being placed on them by the Protestant English Parliament. During the Great French Wars, the French would provoke a Protestant-led rebellion for Irish independence, which caused the British government to claim Ireland as a core part of their kingdom and bring them under further control. Concessions would be made with the Catholic emancipation in 1829, but it did little to improve their position. The damage had been done, and many Catholics were still made to live on the poorer land. A turning point would be the decimation caused by the Irish potato famine in 1845. 1 million deaths exacerbated by British mismanagement caused the Irish to demand for an Irish parliament.
Yeah, that's why I want to look deeper into the potato famine, because I want to kind of understand more about, England's role in the potato famine. It seems like most everybody, even English people themselves, have said that the English government at the time really did Ireland wrong in that aspect. But I don't really know much about that, so I don't really know so far. But that's one reason I want to look into it more.
Some demanded for full Irish independence, but the most popular movement was that of Home Rule. It'd see a self-governed Ireland within the United Kingdom. Its bill would finally be passed in 1912, much to the scrutiny of the mostly Protestant Ulster Loyalists in the north. It'd however be placed on hold given the outbreak of the First World War. Some more radical Irishmen would come out against British rule in 1916, dubbed the Easter Rising. It'd fail, but when the insurrectionists were executed by the government, the rebels would become martyrs. Their fringe movement turned to public outrage. 73 members of the Irish Republican Party, Sinn Féin, would be elected to the British Parliament in 1918, and would refuse to attend the Parliament in London, instead choosing to form an Irish Parliament in Dublin in 1919. This action would spark the War of the Independence that saw the Irish Republican Army brought together to fight for
The IRA. Okay. The Irish Republican, the Irish Republican Army. Is that right? Okay. I obviously, I know the IRA. I know of that. I know the name, but yeah, anyway.
well, an Irish Republic. The Anglo-Irish Treaty drawn up in 1921 would see a partitioned Ireland, one to be split between the mostly Catholic nationalist south and the mostly Protestant loyalist north. However, there was a catch, as there was a significant Catholic minority present in Northern Ireland. There was also a substantial amount of people generally not pleased with the treaty, refusing to recognise the compromised Irish Free State, and certainly refusing to recognise a British Northern Ireland. The stem of the IRA would break off as the anti-treaty IRA and fight in a civil war, only to be put down in 1923 and have the Free State be affirmed. These wars had caused a drift in Northern Ireland. The Protestant majority now suspected and occasionally feared the Catholic minority, who had grown to see the Protestants as oppressive and tyrannical. Over the course of several decades, segregation became normalised between the two communities. In hiring, education, and housing, Protestants and Catholics rarely mixed. The anti-treaty IRA still existed, however dormant. It had begun to see an influx of Marxists, much to the annoyance of the older, more traditional members. In the early 60s, Northern Ireland became subject to a civil rights movement, set on highlighting the inequalities in the province. Staunch loyalists feared it as an IRA front, a facade made to lead to a united Ireland. Civil rights protests began to lead to riots, as both partisan loyalists and the Royal Ulster Constabulary wished to crack down upon them. This led to a great number of Catholics rejecting the RUC's authority, attempting to create their own institutions, as seen in the self-declared autonomous area of Free Derry. Tensions had been rising steadily since 1966 and would climax in '69. A Protestant parade was set to move through a Catholic area of Londonderry, or whatever you want to call it so you don't get mad. Protestants and Catholics would initially begin slinging any old crap at each other, leading to clashes. As the police moved in to crack down, battles erupted. This is known as the Battle of the Bogside. Hundreds of police and civilians were injured in the riots, and the officers of the constabulary would be pushed from the Bogside area. By the third day of rioting, things had become intense, and the Northern Irish Prime Minister requested British troops to relieve the officers. A battalion would intervene as a neutral force to separate the residents from the police and bring an end to the battle. With the news of the battle spreading quickly, agitated Irish nationalists began to break out in protest, and the Ulster Loyalists, fearing a total uprising, began to clash with nationalists, causing widespread violence across Northern Ireland. With an overwhelmed and accusedly biased constabulary not of much help, the British Army would have some serious trouble maintaining law and order. The army had initially been welcomed as a neutral force into the Troubles. The nationalists and loyalists both believed the army was there to protect them from the other. As the violence continued, however, some nationalists began to believe too little was being done to quell the violence against them. The divide in the population was clear, but beneath the surface another divide had formed. In the IRA, the traditionalist Republicans broke away from the Marxist bunch due to the perceived unwillingness of their leaders to protect nationalist communities. This new provisional IRA would soon dwarf its paternal organisation. They had though inherited a crumbling support. Few wanted the help of a paramilitary gang. This changed when in the Battle of St. Matthews in 1970, the local IRA beat back an armed loyalist mob in a shootout, serving to guard a Catholic nationalist enclave. It was a significant propaganda victory for the organisation. The British Army looked to disarm this violence. It would enter the infamous Falls Road area of Belfast, a nationalist stronghold, to seize arm dumps. They were thorough and harsh in their action.
Okay, so Belfast is in Northern Ireland, right? And so you had... Okay. I think I get what they're saying. This is a lot of information they're throwing at me. Wow. let's see, hold on, I want to go back real quick.
Falls Road area of Belfast, a nationalist stronghold, to seize arm dumps.
So the nationalists had a stronghold in Belfast. And the nationalists were the ones that were fighting to have an independent Ireland, or basically were fighting for the current Republic of Ireland.
They were thorough and harsh in their action, doing a significant disservice to their reputation. In the Falls Curfew, the army would come under harassment from both the IRA and angered residents, leading to the unfortunate death of 4 civilians. In August of 1971, the British Army and RUC would undertake Operation Demetrius, which sought to intern paramilitary members. However, their list held a strong nationalist bias, and the operation itself was subject to fumbles, leading to an upsurge in reactionary violence. Those interned reported torture. 2 IRA members were killed, 2 soldiers had also been killed, not to mention 20 civilians. It wasn't a good look, to say the least. With nationalist support of the army at an all-time low, and the hopes of defeating the IRA militarily dashed, the soldiers would be turned to local policing, checkpoint duty, and riot control. The unpopular policy of internment continued as well. Imprisonment without trial was seen as the only logistical way to deal with the unrest. In January of 1972, both the army and the police were deployed to oversee an anti-internment march in Derry. British paratroopers were present, and they had been despised for their role in killing 11 people during Operation Demetrius. Small groups began to lob rocks at the paratroopers, provoking the paratroopers to open fire in return. The crowd would quickly devolve into chaos. 28 people would be shot and 14 died. Given the circumstances of their deaths, the paratroopers were decried for their actions, and the British Army at large felt the ire of the nationalists, Catholics and more. In what would become known as Bloody Sunday, it had put a definite end to any idea of a honeymoon. Yes, I know this part was short, but tough tits. You'll get another one eventually, so don't sook.
All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and go to the other video. I will be back with you in just a moment. All right, we're back. Let's go ahead and continue the troubles.
Hello and welcome to the rest of the video, featuring the rest of the video. The civil rights movement disappeared alongside any kind of moderate party, as many new volunteers flocked to join the IRA. 1972 would be the bloodiest year in the conflict, and the worst for the British Army since the Korean War. The IRA sought reprisal, and would respond with a series of 22 car bombings around Belfast.
Wow!
Killing 9 people, soldiers, police and civilians included. The army would react with 58 arrests and raids for bomb equipment, leading to 1 IRA death. Loyalist paramilitaries would begin to set up checkpoints to overwatch their streets and look out for IRA members, leading to more violence and deaths. Over the course of the unrest, many similar no-go areas had cropped up. They relied on the protection of their paramilitaries and barricades and rejected civil authority. The government decided those had to go, deeming them as a catalyst of crime. Operation Motorman would involve 27,000 soldiers alongside armoured vehicles and even a tank. They'd storm the no-go areas and destroy barricades, taking them by force and fear. There were a couple of deaths, and after the operation 3 more car bombs would be detonated. The IRA, however, did not claim them. The mission had seemed to have contained the insurgent behaviour, but it was in 1973 that those assumptions would be negated. An IRA bombing in London killed 1 and injured hundreds. The suspects would be arrested and tried, but an attack so close to home shocked many in the government. The conflict, alongside a deteriorating domestic situation, saw Anglo-Irish relations damaged, specifically about the British Army's handling of events. The Sunningdale Agreement in 1974 would look to permit the Irish government an advisory role in Northern Ireland, and Northern Ireland's parliament to be disbanded and reformed in attempts to have power shared equally between nationalists and loyalists. Many loyalists disapproved of this, seeing it as giving in to the IRA's terror tactics. Political and paramilitary elements came together in the Ulster Workers' Council strike in May 1974. Paramilitaries would make sure that the workers did not go to work, whether they wanted to or not, leading to Northern Ireland's industry being brought to a grinding halt. 34 people would be killed in the Republic of Ireland by loyalist bombings, and by the time the strike finally ended, the agreement collapsed. The loyalist paramilitaries had achieved a victory through terror. Somewhat later the same year, the IRA would target England again, bombing the cities of Guildford and Birmingham, killing 5 and 21.
Oh.
These bombings caused anti-Irish sentiment in the afflicted areas, Irish people being ostracized.
Whoa, I did not know that. So this went this didn't just stay in Ireland. This literally went into England. Wow. Wow.
Businesses targeted. Reprisal killings would also be suffered back in Northern Ireland, leading to the IRA deeming such attacks to be off limits. There would also be some serious abuses of power in England, as police arrested several Irish people that were forced into making false confessions, leading to 17 people being wrongly incarcerated. Back-channel negotiations between the British government and Republican leadership would finally be able to barter an IRA ceasefire in late 1974. This though did not stop tit-for-tat sectarian killings between nationalists and loyalists.
Oh my goodness.
The division in Northern Irish society was stronger than ever, and hatred ruled many incidents. Through the course of the ceasefire, a few loyalists feared that the government may lose interest, abandon them, leading to them attempting to provoke the IRA into breaking the ceasefire, and the IRA ate it up. The ceasefire had all but collapsed in late 1975. In January 1976, members of the Loyalist Ulster Volunteer Force attacked 2 Catholic families, killing 6 in what had been a part of a larger series of attacks on Catholics. The IRA would retaliate with the Kingsmill Massacre, where they halted a van and gunned down 10 Protestants, sparing the Catholic that rode with them.
What?
The massacre would be the climax of the tit-for-tat killings, causing the string of murders to halt for some while. By 1979, the British Army had become quite effective in handling the IRA, though this only caused the IRA to become increasingly observant and inventive. They'd execute an extensively planned out guerrilla attack on the army in the Warren Point ambush, bombing both a British convoy and the ensuing reinforcements, killing 18 soldiers and not losing a single of their own. The army was forced to rework their methods, becoming increasingly reliant on helicopters instead. This change offered the IRA virtual control of the south of County Armagh, swiftly turning it into bandit country. One of the more significant consequences of the struggle between the army and paramilitaries was the influx of many new prisoners and its taxing effects on the justice system. Initially, paramilitary prisoners were given special category status, which treated them akin to POWs. However, after 1976, they'd been downgraded to being treated as usual criminals. Their own clothes were taken and they would be given prison clothes. They refused in the blanket protest, wearing blankets instead of the provided garb. Later they'd refuse to leave their cells, reporting abuses from the guards, and this would escalate to the dirty protest, as they smeared excrement across the walls of their cells. In 1980, a hunger strike would start in hopes of returning their special status. The strike was called off when it seemed the government would concede. The following year though, the government had not, leading to a second hunger strike led by Bobby Sands. The Prime Minister, Margaret Thatcher, was firm in her stance that she would not offer concessions to those on strike. She would not acknowledge them as political prisoners, but only as criminals. While on strike and in prison, Bobby Sands was able to win the position of MP in the British Parliament, and this gave hope to some that a settlement would be reached. Thatcher continued to refuse compromise. Sands would die on the 66th day of the hunger strike in May. In total, 10 strikers would die. It prompted riots and protests in Northern Ireland and beyond. The political wing of the IRA, Sinn Féin, would begin to receive new gained support, and the IRA itself saw a flux of volunteers, wishing to correct this perceived injustice. With the Irish Republican, Gerry Adams, direction in the aftermath of the hunger strike, Sinn Féin would enter the Northern Ireland Assembly for the first time. Though still well behind in seats of the Ulster Unionist Party and even the staunchly loyalist Ian Paisley's Democratic Unionist Party, it sent a scary message to Thatcher. It discredited the British policy that the IRA acted with no support and had no place in politics. On a less than legal note, the IRA had placed the blame for the strikers' deaths solely at the feet of Thatcher herself and saw the need for revenge. In 1984, they'd bombed the Grand Hotel in Brighton in attempts to assassinate Thatcher and her parliament, killing 5 people, but not Thatcher. This attack would begin to start reflecting the IRA as less of a simple paramilitary in Northern Ireland, but instead as a highly dangerous terrorist organisation. Not to mention it wouldn't be too long before they began receiving some serious armament from, oddly enough, Gaddafi's Libya. 1985 would see the highly significant signing of the Anglo-Irish Agreement. Thatcher, despite her own protest, would agree with the Irish Prime Minister, Garret Fitzgerald, to see Ireland brought into an advisory role in Northern Ireland. This agreement was to see cross-border political, security and legal cooperation between the two countries promoted. Despite how good it may sound, it was opposed by both loyalists, seeing it as doing too much, and nationalists, seeing it as doing too little. These political concessions and attempts to strengthen constitutional politics was all done in attempts to undermine the IRA. But the Republicans' campaign of terror continued. Attacks occurred against isolated army and police barracks, significantly damaging morale of troops, who would only see recompense when they were able to turn the tables and ambush the IRA members in 1987, killing 8 of the men responsible for the attacks. Later the same year, during Remembrance Day, the IRA bombed a war memorial used for ceremony. They killed 12 people and injured dozens, many of them being simply old-age pensioners. This attack would shake the IRA to its core, as the backlash was immense. Loyalists would seek revenge in blood, of course, but Sinn Féin's vote would utterly collapse, not recovering for 14 years. The IRA, however, still continued its armed campaign against the British Army, in 1989 overrunning a well-fortified checkpoint and killing 2 soldiers.
Man, the killing of innocent people, man. No matter, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to say. That's not good. Killing innocent people. There's never a reason to kill innocent people. You know, no matter how much you dislike some group or what, just innocent people should should not be involved.
They also once again seek to attack the Prime Minister, this time being John Major. With the increasing reliance of their improvised mortars, they'd commence an attack on 10 Downing Street in February 1991. The rounds would miss, but the attack still startled the government. Alongside this campaign against the British Army and government, they'd also become tougher on loyalist paramilitaries, assassinating their members. They'd attempted bombing on their leadership in 1993, but only killed 1 loyalist alongside their own men and 8 civilians. The failed attack only provoked more Catholic killings by loyalist paramilitary. At this point, after 25 years of constant violence and fear, it seemed endless. But this did not stop efforts to put an end to it. A historic ceasefire would be called in 1994 to allow for negotiations, but by 1996 the IRA was seriously doubting any progress to be made. The British Conservative Party was reliant on loyalist votes, and any concessions to the IRA would be severely unpopular. The IRA would break the ceasefire in February with the bombings on Canary Wharf, killing 2 people, but more importantly to the government, causing significant financial damage. They sought to replicate attacks on the government's wallet, detonating 1,600 kilos of explosive in Manchester's centre, surprisingly killing no one but causing much damage and the evacuation of 75,000 people. The bombing had an effect on their general election in 1997, leading to Tony Blair's Labour Party coming into power. A new government saw new talks, though of course not without complications. The negotiations would be threatened over a dispute of the Loyalist Orange Order parade seeking to move through a nationalist area. The government would allow the parade to go on, causing the worst rioting since the riots caused by the hunger strike in 1981. In spite of that incident, negotiations held, leading to the Good Friday Agreement in
Okay, I've heard of that. I haven't.
Northern Ireland's government was shifted to focus on power sharing. The Royal Ulster Constabulary would be watched by an independent commission to check for bias, eventually leading to the RUC being rebranded to the Police Service of Northern Ireland and restructured. And if the day were to come that the majority of people in Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland wished to unify, the British government would have it be done. Alongside these important changes, paramilitary weaponry would be decommissioned and many prisoners released. After 30 years of torment and over 3,500 deaths, peace was now tangible.
What?
Of course, the Good Friday Agreement didn't just...
3,500 deaths? Like, I was hearing a lot of deaths, right? I mean, it was like you got 10 here and 4 here, and it's like, I thought it was going to add up to quite a bit, but I had no idea it was that many. That's insane. That's crazy.
Come about flawlessly. It was passed by referendum, with 94% approval in the Republic of Ireland, but only 71% in Northern Ireland. Some loyalists felt cheated, and so too did some nationalists. In August 1998, a splinter group of the IRA would bomb the town of Omagh, killing 29. However, it did not break peace. The provisional IRA for the most part would lay down its arms and disband. Despite on the face of it still being active, they are a shadow. The change that had so rapidly happened was really showcased in 2007, when a radically loyalist Ian Paisley held position as First Minister, with his Deputy First Minister, a former IRA member and the Sinn Féin leader, Martin McGuinness. McGuinness would also be awarded an audience and even attend banquet with the Queen. To have come to that, from being not too long ago an enemy of the state, well, it's a bit surprising.
Was that him?
The peace and government of Northern Ireland is, however, fragile. Currently, given dispute between the DPU and Sinn Féin, the government is vacant and a fair share of people are frustrated, but it couldn't even begin to touch on what the people of Northern Ireland have seen before. Whilst there are still many people that pledge adamantly to being either loyalist or nationalist, peace can be found, and sectarian violence is increasingly rarer as time goes on. The deaths and destruction of the conflict can never truly be amended. To this day you still find the literal peace lines that separate communities from one another, though they are set to be taken down, and as time continues these wounds can start to heal. The war has ended, and no one won it. Really, no one should have won. A political struggle does remain, however. Ireland is not united. And was that not the IRA's goal? Is that not the point of Sinn Féin? Have I just provoked a massive shitstorm in the comments? You can find out the answer for all those on your own. Though, little hint, last one is almost definitely a yes. I'd like to give a thanks to the patrons.
Wow. Wow, guys. I thought this guy did a really great job of putting together these videos. This was so much information thrown at me that I know I'm going to not quite understand everything. This is a type of thing that you've kind of got to, look at a number of different sources over time to really fully grasp. But I definitely understand how violent this period of time was. And it makes me, it's like not even that long ago. Well, 96, I think it ended. So it was like, was it 66 through 96 was basically the time period this was going on. So you have an entire generation that, was, raised through this and become adults in this. And it's sad, man. It's sad that, religion, I mean, at least that's what I gather from this is it started mainly as a religious division because, it's a religious division, but it's also, people that want to stay with the British government versus want to be an independent Ireland. And so that's I can understand the emotions run high when you're talking about, someone who wants to be independent, doesn't want to be part of this other nation. And then these people that want to stay part of this nation don't want to be independent, even though you're technically, you were the same country forever. And then oh my goodness, man, it's very complicated. It's very sad that these issues have to divide people so much, but I understand it's high emotion. But the word, it's one thing to fight amongst, how do I put that? I don't know how to put that, but it's just sad that so many innocent people had to die, there were probably innocent people that died that didn't really have they weren't strongly pulled in either direction. Maybe they could agree to disagree on things, so to speak. I hope that the island of Ireland, I hope that both Northern Ireland and Republic of Ireland citizens can somewhat put away their differences today. It feels like that, based off of the comments I've received. It feels like for the most part there's peace, but people still feel strongly about their religion, whether they want to be in the British government, be a part of Britain or be independent. I had no idea it was 3,500 deaths. I mean, that's insane. That's insane. I assumed it was going to be, maybe over the course of this long period of time, couple hundred deaths. And I thought it was going to be a lot of bombings and stuff, but I had no idea that many people lost their lives. That's insane. Wow. And the fact they still have those walls, where are they at? Where's those walls at? Right here. This is almost like, it reminds me of the Berlin Wall to a certain extent. I don't know if it had that vibe, but that's just how it looks to me. The fact that what was once a single nation of people on the island of Ireland became so divided over religion and over wanting to either be independent or with the British government. It's just, that's crazy, man. Wow. But America had something. Obviously it was different in different reasons, but the Civil War, that's basically what this was. That's the way it seems to me. It was a civil war for 30 years, which is an extremely long civil war. Wow. This is really interesting, though, guys. I'm definitely going to have to go and do some more research on the Troubles, and also the IRA itself, and other things that have to do with this, because, like I said, this is a lot of information to try to grasp all at once. But this video did a good job of helping me understand have a general understanding of what happened. So anyways, guys, thank you so much for stopping by. Please click that like button. Feel free to drop your comments or suggestions about this video or other things that you think I might like looking into, whether it's about the Troubles or any other Irish topic, really. Anyways, guys, please don't forget to subscribe to continue to join me on my journey to discover my British and Irish ancestry. Until next time, guys, peace.